There's a moment in everyone's life when pain becomes personal. When someone doubts you, betrays you, underestimates you, or walks away when you needed them most. It cuts deeper than words can describe. And in that moment, all you want is to make them see, to make them regret ever hurting you. But here's the truth. The greatest revenge is not anger, not payback, not proving them wrong with words. The greatest revenge is success. The kind of success that forces silence from every critic. That turns every rejection into a reason for your rise. That transforms every wound into wisdom. Revenge doesn't come from shouting. It comes from showing. From building something so undeniable that the same people who once doubted you have no choice but to respect you. It's not about hating them. It's about outgrowing them. Because every insult, every failure, every setback is energy. And how you use that energy determines everything. You can waste it trying to fight back, or you can use it to level up. You can react, or you can redirect. This is not a speech about anger. This is a speech about focus. About learning how to transform pain into purpose, how to let silence do the talking, and how to find peace in knowing that the best response to doubt is to win quietly. Because success doesn't argue. It doesn't defend itself. It simply arrives, and when it does, it speaks for you louder than you ever could. This is about rising above, about proving to yourself, not to them, that every challenge, every criticism, and every failure was only preparing you for something greater. It's about forgiveness without forgetting, and strength without shouting. It's about showing the world what happens when you stop chasing revenge and start chasing growth. Because when you do, success becomes your loudest answer. When life hits you with rejection, criticism, or betrayal, the natural human instinct is to react. We want to defend ourselves, to prove them wrong in the moment, to show that we are not weak. But reacting only gives power to the very people who tried to break you. It places your emotions in their hands and lets their words dictate your behavior. The truth is, the most effective response to pain is not reaction, but redirection. It's about taking the energy that pain gives you, because pain always gives energy, and channeling it into something productive, something meaningful, something that builds you rather than breaks you. When someone underestimates you, it stings. It makes you question your worth. But instead of wasting that energy on anger or resentment, imagine what happens when you take that same emotional fire and redirect it into your growth. Every person who said you couldn't do it becomes silent fuel for your persistence. Every failure that embarrassed you becomes a lesson that strengthens your focus. The moment you shift from emotional reaction to purposeful redirection, everything begins to change. Because pain, when redirected, becomes progress. Think of the most successful people in the world. Their stories are not built on comfort, they are built on pain. They didn't climb because life was easy. They climbed because something hurt them so deeply that they refused to stay where they were. Rejection pushed them to improve. Failure forced them to adapt. Criticism made them sharper. Every painful experience became a stepping stone to their greatness. They didn't react to the people who doubted them. They redirected the energy toward building something those same people couldn't ignore. That is what turning pain into progress looks like. There will always be moments when you feel the urge to defend yourself, to explain, to prove to others that you're capable. But when you react, you give those people your time and your attention, two of the most valuable currencies you possess. Redirection, on the other hand, is strategic. It says, I don't need to prove anything to you. I'll let my actions show you who I am. It's not passive. It's powerful. Because it transforms your focus from them to you. From external noise to internal growth. And the moment your focus returns to yourself, your energy becomes unstoppable. Pain is information. It tells you where your weaknesses are, what you care about, and what needs to change. When you redirect pain, you use it as feedback. Instead of asking, why did this happen to me? You start asking, what can I learn from this? That simple shift transforms you from a victim into a creator. Because now, you're not waiting for life to get better. You're building the version of yourself that will make it better. Pain, when harnessed correctly, becomes the greatest motivator. It lights a fire that comfort never could. When you stop reacting, you take back control. You stop letting people rent space in your mind. You stop letting situations determine your mood. You begin to see that the people who tried to hurt you are not worth your energy. The most powerful people in the world are not the ones who shout the loudest. They're the ones who stay quiet and keep building while everyone else talks. Redirection is the art of channeling emotional chaos into disciplined creation. It's how you transform every insult into innovation, every heartbreak into hunger, every setback into strategy. So when life hurts you, don't rush to react. Sit with the pain. Understand it, then decide where to aim it. Aim it at your goals. Aim it at your self-improvement. Aim it at becoming so good that those who doubted you can't help but watch in silence. Because the truth is, pain never disappears. It only changes form. You get to choose whether it becomes poison or power. Reaction makes it poison. Redirection turns it into power. And when you learn to redirect, every one becomes a weapon. Every scar becomes a story. And every failure becomes the foundation of your next victory. There's a certain kind of strength that doesn't announce itself. It doesn't argue. It doesn't explain, and it doesn't beg to be understood. It moves quietly. It focuses. It works in silence. And then, one day, it speaks through results so undeniable that everyone who once doubted you can't help but listen. That's the power of silence. It's louder than any words you could ever say. Most people feel the need to respond immediately when criticized or underestimated. They want to make sure everyone knows their side, their truth, their worth. But when you're truly confident in who you are and what you're building, you realize that silence is not weakness. It's wisdom. Because silence says, I don't owe you my energy. I'm too busy working on myself. It's not about ignoring others. It's about prioritizing your peace over their opinions. The loudest person in the room rarely holds the most power. The one who listens observes and acts with quiet intention always does. When you respond to negativity with silence, you take away its fuel. Every argument needs energy to survive. Every rumor needs attention to grow. Silence stars both. It disarms the people who expect a reaction, because your calmness shows that they can't control you. And that's what true strength looks like: emotional control. You stop giving others the satisfaction of seeing you bothered. You stop playing their game. Instead, you create your own, and you play it so well that they have no choice but to watch. Think about the times you wanted to clap back, to defend your name, to prove someone wrong. Now think about how much time and energy that took from you. All that energy could have been spent on building something better. A skill, a dream, a goal. Silence allows you to redirect that emotional energy into something that actually moves your life forward. It turns reaction into creation. And when your work starts speaking for you, the very people who tried to silence you end up becoming silent themselves. Silence is also discipline. It's the ability to restrain the ego when it wants validation. The ego wants to win every argument, to always be right, to always be seen. But success doesn't come from proving others wrong in conversation. It comes from proving them wrong in execution. When you're silent, you're not losing the battle. You're preparing for victory. Because every minute spent arguing is a minute lost from the work that will eventually make the argument irrelevant. Let your actions do the talking, because actions don't need approval. They demand respect. There's something magnetic about a person who doesn't react to everything around them. Their stillness commands attention. Their composure builds curiosity. People start to wonder what they're up to, what they're working on, what drives them. That mystery creates power. The less you reveal, the more they want to know. The less you explain, the more they respect what you've achieved. Silence builds anticipation, and anticipation builds influence. Silence also creates clarity. When you stop filling every quiet moment with noise, explanations, opinions, or defensiveness, you start hearing your own thoughts again. You begin to understand what truly matters to you. You learn to separate what deserves your energy from what doesn't. In silence, you find strategy, you find focus, you find direction. And that's what allows you to move with precision while everyone else is distracted by noise. The truth is, words lose power when they aren't backed by action. You can say you're going to succeed, but until your work proves it, those words are just air. You can promise change, but unless your behavior shows it, no one believes you. Silence eliminates that gap. It allows you to do the work quietly, to let time and consistency prove your point. And when success finally arrives, it speaks with such authority that no defense or argument could ever match its impact. So when people doubt you, stay silent. When they criticize, stay focused. When they provoke, stay calm. Because silence doesn't mean you're defeated. It means you're choosing to rise above. It means you're letting your growth be your response. And when your results finally speak, the same silence that once seemed quiet will echo louder than any words you could have ever spoken. There comes a moment in every journey when you realize that chasing approval from others is a race with no finish line. No matter how much you achieve, there will always be someone who doubts you, someone who minimizes your effort, someone who believes you don't deserve what you've earned. If your sense of worth depends on their validation, you'll spend your entire life trying to earn applause from people who were never clapping for you. That's why the only person you ever need to prove anything to is yourself. Because once you start playing for your own respect, instead of their recognition, you start to live with real purpose. When you try to prove yourself to others, your focus shifts outward. You begin to measure your progress based on how they see you, how they talk about you, or how much they acknowledge your effort. And the truth is, most of the time, they're not even watching. People are too consumed with their own insecurities to truly see yours. So you end up exhausting yourself trying to impress an audience that isn't paying attention. But when you prove it to yourself, the entire game changes. The pressure transforms into drive. The competition disappears, and what's left is growth. Proving it to yourself means showing up even when no one's watching. It means keeping promises that only you will ever know about. It means doing the work quietly, not for applause, not for validation, but because you know it's what your best self demands. It's the moment you look in the mirror and decide that your own opinion of yourself will always matter more than anyone else's. When you reach that point, external criticism loses its power, because deep down, you already know your worth. You're not doing it for approval anymore. You're doing it because it aligns with who you want to become. Most people get trapped in comparison because they build their identity around other people's achievements. They see someone doing better and immediately feel less. But when your goal is to prove it to yourself, comparison fades away. You start asking different questions. Instead of, am I better than them? You ask, am I better than I was yesterday? That question changes everything. It shifts your focus from ego to evolution, from insecurity to improvement. You stop chasing perfection and start chasing progress, and that's when real growth begins. There's a quiet kind of power that comes from self-validation. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it's unshakable. Because when your confidence is rooted in your own belief, no rejection can break it, no praise can inflate it, and no failure can define it. You become grounded. You stop needing people to believe in you because you already do. That's when you start moving differently, not with arrogance, but with certainty. You no longer seek approval. You simply live your truth. You work, you grow, you improve, and that becomes your statement to the world. Proving it to yourself also means embracing the process, not just the outcome. It's easy to stay motivated when the results are visible. But real strength is tested in the unseen stages. The long nights, the early mornings, the moments of doubt that no one will ever witness. Those are the moments that define you. Because that's when you decide whether you're doing it for others or for yourself. When you keep going in silence, without recognition, that's when you're proving your commitment. That's when you're becoming the person you once hoped to be. The truth is, success that's built to impress others never feels fulfilling. You might get the recognition, but it fades. You might get the applause, but it's temporary. The only success that truly lasts is the one that satisfies your own soul. The kind that makes you proud when you're alone with your thoughts. Because external success might make you visible, but internal success makes you whole. When you prove it to yourself, you stop chasing moments of validation and start building a lifetime of meaning. And maybe that's the secret all along, that the real competition was never with anyone else. It was always with the version of yourself that doubted you, that hesitated, that gave up too early. Every time you push past that version, every time you grow beyond your old limits, you win. You prove to yourself that you are capable of more than you imagined. You realize that you never needed their approval to begin with. You only needed your own belief. There's something undeniably powerful about a person who doesn't need to announce what they're doing, who doesn't boast about their plans or argue about their worth, but instead lets their results do the talking. Because words can be debated, but results are undeniable. You don't have to tell people how capable you are when your actions already prove it. You don't have to convince anyone of your value when your achievements speak for themselves. True confidence doesn't shout, it performs. It creates, it delivers. It lets success be the voice that others can't ignore. Many people waste precious energy trying to explain themselves to those who have already made up their minds about them. They spend their time arguing with critics, trying to win validation from those who never truly believed in them to begin with. But that's not strength, that's distraction. When you stop explaining and start executing, you realize that the most powerful response is progress, because no argument, no defense, no speech can ever match the clarity of undeniable success. When you achieve, you silence every doubt without saying a word. You don't have to defend your path. You simply walk it, and the destination speaks for itself. Letting success speak for you means embracing patience and discipline. It means understanding that real success takes time and that the journey is built quietly behind the scenes. The people who talk the most about what they're going to do rarely do it. But the ones who keep their heads down, focus, and commit to consistency, they're the ones who end up creating something that commands attention. Success is not a performance for the world to see. It's the byproduct of private dedication, unseen effort, and unglamorous persistence. You don't need to broadcast every step when you're confident that the outcome will tell the story for you. There will always be people who doubt you, people who question your ability, your decisions, or your direction. And your instinct may be to prove them wrong right away, to show them that they misjudged you. But the truth is, you can't change people's opinions through argument. You change them through evidence. And evidence comes in the form of results. When you achieve something undeniable, the same people who once dismissed you are forced to acknowledge what they can no longer ignore. They don't have to like you, but they will have to respect the outcome. That's what it means to let success speak for you. It turns doubt into silence and criticism into quiet observation. Success also carries a kind of purity when it's not built on validation. When your motivation comes from within, from a desire to grow, to master your craft, to create impact, your achievements carry authenticity. You're not chasing applause, you're chasing excellence. And that difference is what makes your success echo longer, because applause fades, but excellence leaves a legacy. When your intention is pure, the success that follows carries meaning, and that meaning speaks louder than any self-promotion ever could. Letting success speak for you is also about self-trust. It's about knowing that your worth doesn't need to be justified in every conversation. You stop reacting to every opinion because you understand that opinions don't build futures. Actions do. You trust the process enough to stay silent when others talk, to work when others doubt, to wait when others rush, because you know that the work will eventually reveal the truth. Success is the great equalizer. It exposes the talkers and elevates the doers. There's a quiet satisfaction that comes when you achieve something that once seemed impossible, especially when you've been underestimated. You don't even need to say, "I told you so." The results say it for you. Every milestone you reach becomes a reminder that you didn't need to fight for recognition, you just needed to keep moving forward. And as you keep succeeding, you begin to realize that success itself becomes your voice, one that's calm, confident, and commanding. It speaks not with words, but with proof. In a world where everyone is trying to be heard, the ones who stand out are the ones who don't need to shout. They let their actions echo in the silence. They let their consistency create credibility. And eventually, success becomes their loudest statement, a statement that requires no defense, no explanation, and no introduction. Because when success speaks for you, it says everything that needs to be said without you having to say a single word. Forgiveness is one of the hardest yet most liberating choices you will ever make. It doesn't mean pretending the pain never happened. It doesn't mean excusing what was done to you or allowing it to happen again. Forgiveness is about freeing yourself from the weight of resentment, because holding on to anger doesn't punish the person who hurt you, it punishes you. It poisons your thoughts, clouds your judgment, and keeps you anchored to the very moment you're trying to move beyond. To forgive is to reclaim your peace, but to never forget the lesson is to make sure the pain had a purpose. When someone wrongs you, your mind and heart go to war. One part wants to let go, to move forward, to find peace. The other part wants justice, to make them feel the same hurt they caused. That's a natural reaction. But if you spend your life trying to make others feel your pain, you'll spend your life stuck in the past. Forgiveness doesn't erase what happened. It transforms your relationship with it. You stop seeing yourself as the victim of that story and start seeing yourself as the survivor who learned from it. That's what it means to forgive, but never forget the lesson. You let go of the emotional burden, but you hold onto the wisdom that came from it. Every painful experience carries a lesson hidden within it. Sometimes it teaches you who not to trust. Sometimes it teaches you the strength you didn't know you had. Sometimes it teaches you what kind of person you never want to become. The pain might break you for a while, but if you pay attention, it also builds you. Forgiveness helps you move forward, but remembering the lesson keeps you from repeating the same mistake. Because pain that isn't understood gets repeated, but pain that's understood becomes transformation. Forgiving doesn't mean reconciling. It doesn't mean you have to welcome those people back into your life. Forgiveness is for your heart, not their comfort. It's an internal act, not a social one. You forgive to release yourself from bitterness, not to reward their behavior. You forgive so you can focus on your growth instead of your grudges. When you stop carrying resentment, you create space for healing, creativity, and peace. Because energy that was once spent reliving the past becomes energy that can now build your future. But remembering the lesson ensures you build it with wisdom, not naivety. There's strength in forgiveness because it shows that you value your peace more than your pride. Pride wants revenge, peace wants closure. Pride wants to win, peace wants to grow. When you forgive, you're not saying what happened was okay. You're saying it's not going to control you anymore. That decision separates you from those who stay stuck in bitterness. It elevates you. But at the same time, never forgetting the lesson means you remain alert, aware, and grounded. It means you don't allow the same pain to disguise itself in new forms. You learn, you adapt, you evolve. Forgiveness without reflection is narva. Reflection without forgiveness is toxic. You need both to truly move on. Because if you forgive too quickly, without understanding the lesson, you risk repeating the cycle. But if you only reflect and never forgive, you keep reliving the same emotional wound. The balance between the two gives you both freedom and wisdom. It allows you to let go emotionally while holding on intellectually to what the experience taught you about people, about boundaries, and about yourself. Some of the greatest growth you'll ever experience will come from people who disappointed you. They showed you the limits of your tolerance. They revealed what you value most. They taught you that not everyone deserves access to you. And when you realize that, forgiveness stops being about them and starts being about you. You forgive because you deserve peace, not because they deserve another chance. You remember the lesson because you deserve protection, not because you want revenge. The truth is, every wound can become wisdom if you allow it to. Every betrayal can become a teacher if you listen to what it's trying to show you. You can't rewrite the past, but you can use it as a manual for your future. Forgive so the weight no longer drags you down. But never forget so the pain doesn't become a pattern. Because when you forgive and still remember the lesson, you walk forward not with bitterness, but with understanding, not with anger, but with awareness. You rise above what happened, but you carry the insight it gave you as armor for the journey ahead. In the end, revenge was never about proving anyone wrong. It was about proving yourself right. It was never about showing them what they lost, but about discovering what you were meant to gain. Success isn't about winning against others. It's about winning against your own pain, your own fear, your own doubt. Because when you rise, not with rage, but with resilience, you become untouchable. You don't need to shout. You don't need to fight. You just keep building. You keep growing. You keep showing through action what words could never express. The truth is, the people who tried to break you were part of the process that built you. Every betrayal became motivation. Every rejection became redirection. Every setback became strength. And while they were busy talking, you were busy transforming. That's the beauty of letting success be your voice. It silences the noise, it humbles the critics, and it reminds the world that your story isn't defined by what happened to you, but by what you decided to do about it. Forgive those who hurt you, not because they deserve peace, but because you do. Release the anger, but keep the lesson. Stop reacting and start creating. Because your focus is your weapon, your growth is your revenge, and your success is your victory. Let it speak for you. Let it echo louder than hate, louder than doubt, louder than fear. And when they look back, When they finally see the distance between who you were and who you've become, you won't need to say a word. Your success will say everything.